Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about The Flash. 3 episodes this time. Episode 505, All Dolled Up, 506, The Icicle Cometh, and 507, O Come All Ye Faithful, which premiered November 13th, 20th, and 27th, 2017 on the CW. So I'm recording roughly 30 minutes after 507 has aired. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the episodes already, please go do so first and then come back and see what I have to say about the 3 episodes. So I'm going to try to do this in 30 minutes, give 10 minutes roughly for each episode. Hopefully, I do it right. Fingers crossed. But let's start the clock and let's begin with what happened in this episode. So, I guess it's going to be a little different because I am summarizing three episodes, but this is all based off of what I was able to write down strictly after the episode has aired. So, they're just main key points. So, the main plot reminder that I got from episode 505 was the creepy contortionist, which was created by the Enlightenment. Not sure if it was meta-tech or if it was an actual metahuman that was created from it, but that was pretty much the main storyline for that episode. 506, the storyline was finding Thomas Snow, aka Caitlyn's father, which they did with some surprising results. And 507, the main storyline was pretty much Weather Witch, which is basically the daughter of Weather Wizard, having powers to manipulate the weather due to Metatech, as she tries to do whatever she can to kill her father who abandoned her, all on the eve of Thanksgiving, or the day of Thanksgiving as well too. So it's within that span of time. So there's that. Huge, or I should say most shocking moment of the episodes that I can remember for 505. I actually don't really remember what was a shocking moment for that episode. To be honest, that episode didn't really do anything for me. And as I go through, you'll probably kind of see why, but there wasn't an oh my god moment for me that I can remember. So there's that. For 506, though, it was the fact that Icicle, aka Thomas Snow's alternate personality, he was in control the whole time, not Thomas Snow, and he actually escaped the custody of Team Flash when he tried to suppress the Thomas Snow's consciousness inside of him. So that was a surprise there for sure. I mean, given the fact that you found him so early on in the episode, it kind of gave it the fact that something's off, but I didn't expect it to be like this. So there's that. And 507, the most shocking moment of the episode, I think would have to be the fact that Jocelyn, aka Weather Witch, wanted to kill her father and not reunite him like we thought. And the second most shocking moment had to be the fact that Team Flash actually identified Cicada as Orlin Dwyer. That was surprising considering we are still technically early in the season. Used to remember that like season 1, season 2, even season 3, we didn't know the identity of our main season villain until like maybe the third portion of the season. So to get it in the first third of it was a surprise. But anyways, I'll move on from that. So main tidbit, I'm gonna say, I have pretty much 2 for each episode. So for 505, I put down that one main tidbit to walk away from is the fact that Cisco's hands are still wounded to the point that his powers aren't as stable. So every time he gets a vibe vision, it's straining to the point that he'll start to bleed from his nose, or his hands will start to bleed up again from where they were cut, and that is due to some of the dark matter from Cicada's weapon still being inside of his hands and dampening his powers. So there's that. Another tidbit for 505 was the fact that Nora learns about Iris's childhood through Cecile. So in the guise of Cecile trying to play it off as their being childhood stories of Barry, when in fact they were Iris, to kind of get Nora to listen with an open mind. Plus, we do see the return of Nora's journal again, but we don't see her actually writing in the Speed Force symbols, which they haven't brought up yet since their introduction, or since their appearance in the season 4 finale, I believe. But anyways, but moving on to 506 for their tidbits. First one being that this one kind of dealt with, 506 initially dealt with 3 storylines. First one being finding Thomas Snow. The second one, which is Sherlock, Iris, and Nora finding the Enlightenment satellite that the dagger is a part of, which is the core of it, which is where the most dark matter was infused in the satellite. And then the third storyline, which is my second tidbit, is the fact that Ralph and Cecile worked together to find the name of Cicada's daughter, which ended up being Grace Gibbons. So all three served their own purpose. The two tidbit storylines I kind of pointed out were connected to the main storyline with Cicada, and then the main focus of the episode with Thomas Snow was more of dealing with the subplot we were getting with Caitlin for the last few episodes. So there's that. Now with 507, tidbit wise, we got an update about Caitlin's connection to Killer Frost, to the point that now, without using that, it was one of the devices that Wells created that allowed for Caitlin to hear her inner thoughts, which is where Killer Frost resides. So it's gotten to the point with practice that Caitlin's eyes will flash to the white color, and that is when Killer Frost is able to communicate either outwardly or to Caitlin. We do see that for the first time in this episode, without Caitlin actually going full Frost. Second tidbit was the fact that we see Sherlock painting. Don't know if it was actually painting or if it was him just throwing paint on a canvas, but it looked like painting to me, so I'll give it at that. And a third tidbit I was going to say is this episode showed Nora struggling with Barry always risking his life for the sake of being the Flash, and they're trying to gain to an understanding of what it actually means to be a hero and why he's a hero or why he's the Flash. And it is because him being the Flash is so that he could be out there to protect Nora, so he could eliminate any threats or all dangers so that his daughter could live a better life. And essentially, that's, well, since Nora's not technically alive yet for Barry, he is the Flash to protect those that he loved. And in extension, in the future, that's going to include Nora. So anyways, there's that. Now, moving on to top favorite moments. Because I'm talking about 3 episodes, I'm going to try to minimize it. But the episode 505, I will say my favorite part that I remember for the episode is we see more of the friendship between Caitlin and Cisco. I have been loving their development. It's great to see that they still have such a strong connection with each other. I'm glad that we got to see that more in depth and more on screen, just to see him being there for her and trying to help her find her father, and just see what he's willing to do to help her find these answers. I really enjoyed that. Their friendship is one of the main reasons why I like this show. It would have been a bonus if Barry was included into that too, but we didn't get that in this episode. So that was my favorite for 505. Now for 506, this, I gotta say, was one of my favorite episodes. Because not only because we finally get a accumulation of answers for Caitlin in regards to her father, but my favorite moment has to be for 506 is Barry finally being a part of Caitlin's search for her father. We have the original trio that is Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco working together, finding answers, and trying to solve the problem together, just like in season 1. It's like it got all those vibes back. No pun intended, but I was missing that dynamic between them. Their friendship is, again, one of the core reasons why I love watching The Flash, just to see their dynamic, their friendship, how they're able to help each other and how they care for one another. And for a long time, I haven't been feeling that. I mean, I honestly can't really remember a very significant point where it's just been the 3 of them. They might have had some moments here and there, though, but I feel like it hasn't been consistent for a very long time. So I was very pleased that Barry was finally clued in to this storyline. So there is that. I'll probably mention it later, but anyways, so there's that. And another favorite was the fact that we got to see Killer Frost return. We got to see answers as to where she has been this whole time, and we find out that Caitlin's powers weren't taken away by DeVoe using Melting Point's power, but he actually used Brainstorm's power, and that is that DeVoe created a mental block within Caitlin that suppressed Killer Frost. So she wasn't taken away as we thought. Her DNA wasn't rewritten. Killer Frost was actually Caitlin's cure to having the ALS marker. So it wasn't because of dark matter or anything. It was because of her father's gene therapy treatment. So it was great to finally get answers as to where Killer Frost originated from. So it's a huge favorite overall. It's just that storyline for this episode was just, I could watch it over and over again and not get tired of it. I just love it so much. So there's that. And for 507, my favorite moment pretty much has to be the opening, and that is with Caitlin and Barry. Their opening scene, and that is them trying to make pies and then doing the whole bit about like how time of death is like, well, it's a pie, it's not supposed to be a piece of cake, and then making the jokes about that, and just having Barry and Caitlin talking to each other, and just like her helping him in the kitchen to prepare for Thanksgiving, how he's asking her about Killer Frost and she's updating him about her progress with her alter ego, and then just talking to them about Barry's views about Nora bonding with Iris. It was just great to see the friendship between Barry and Caitlin. And I don't care if you're a West Island fan or if you're a Snowberry fan, what I truly love about Barry and Caitlin was the friendship. I don't care if you see them as a romantic sense or not, or if you're truly a Barry and Iris fan. I don't care about that. You could be a Barry and Iris fan, but you could still appreciate the friendship that Barry had with Caitlin. And for a very long time, I felt like that friendship has just been put to the side, or it has been completely dismissed, which I think is completely unfair due to how much they have gone through, and then how much their friendship was showcased in the first 2 seasons. So it was really great to see these two sharing a scene together. It was great to see them just being a part of each other's lives, being those close friends again. It's like, I can still be a fan of Barry and Iris and still want to see the friendship between Barry and Caitlin. So I truly appreciated that. That is why that particular kitchen scene for them is a top favorite moment for me. I mean, I would have preferred knowing what they were talking about than hearing about Nora finding out from Iris that Barry has risked his life many times before, where they thought that was it for him. I mean, yeah, that's a key moment, a key piece of information that Nora didn't know about through the museum. But because I've missed the friendship between Barry and Caitlin, I would have been solely fine with just seeing what they were talking about in the kitchen in the background. So there's that. I'm going to keep rambling. I do apologize. But another favorite from 507 was the fact that we got to see Killer Frost appear again for a split moment just to talk some sense into Cisco and Sherlock about their anti-Thanksgiving stance. And it was funny because Sherlock did a spit take. This is the first time he saw Killer Frost appear. So Caitlin's just killing it in the last 2 episodes, and I'm loving it. So I'll leave it at that. But moving on to top peeves, there's got to be some peeves at times, and sad to say that they each had their own. So with 505, I will say this. I was definitely not a fan of the main storyline of the episode, which was the Barry and Iris team up going against that creepy contortionist meta. It just doesn't really doing anything for me. I was more interested in the sub-storyline of Caitlin trying to find answers for her father in that episode. But what made this a peeve for me was the fact that it still irritates me that at this point, there is no recognition that Barry even knows what's happening with his friends' lives. At this point in time, to me, I'm getting the impression that Barry has no idea that Caitlin is trying to find her father. It looks like Barry has no idea as to what she's going through, what her progress on that search is. Yet everyone else on the team, yet Cisco, Sherlock, and Ralph are all helping Caitlin try to find these answers. And yet Barry, who's supposed to be a friend of Caitlin's, at this point in the series, it doesn't seem like he's aware. And like, I'll touch about a bit of on it, but like in 506, when Barry's actually part of that conversation for the first time, it looked like Caitlin was surprised to see Barry acknowledge her search for her father, giving me the impression that he didn't know up to that point about it. So that is why it's a peeve for me. Like, while Caitlin's close friends are trying to help her find these answers, I felt like Barry should have been there to help her, or at least acknowledge the fact that if you need something, I'm here, just let me know what I can do. That, small scene, that small sentence, that small offer would have been enough for me. It would have shown that he is aware of her search. He is offering his help for her, and that's it. Because up to 5:05, I did not get that impression whatsoever, and that is what ticked me off so much. And I'll leave it at that. For 5:06, as much as I hate to say this because of how much I love the episode, a peeve of mine was the fact that Nora seemed a lot more interested in bonding with Iris than helping the investigation to find Cicada's identity. I mean, she was more, especially since Cicada now in the present day is a different person than he's supposed to be in the future, and it's all because of Nora. Nora's interference created this new Cicada. If it wasn't for Nora, Sherlock would have identified Cicada, and it would have been the correct Cicada that they were looking for. But because Nora interfered, now they have to start from scratch, brand new, find this new Cicada. And in this episode, she seemed more interested in getting to know her mother than to find pretty much the serial killer she created due to her interference with stopping the Enlightenment. It just seemed like earlier in the season when Nora was guilt-ridden over the fact that her time travel trip has caused so much deviation from her timeline, and how all these things are happening earlier and they weren't supposed to happen because she got involved. Where is that guilt? Because I would assume that Nora would be so driven and focused to trying to find Cicada and stop him as quick as possible so that no other additional lives had to be lost because of her selfish mistake. And yet in this episode, while I get she might wanted to get to know her mom, who she's kind of been putting on the back burner since she arrived, but it just seemed like wrong place, wrong time. I mean, you created this serial killer, you should be focused on stopping this serial killer type of thing. So that was a peeve of mine for that episode. It just felt very selfish of Nora. It just seemed very selfish and very contradictory to the guilt that she felt in like 5:02, I believe it was, when she first realized that the new Cicada is because of her interference. And I'll leave it at that before I continue talking in circles. But a top peeve for 5:07 is kind of two of them. First one was the fact that I'm really starting to get tired of the whole father-daughter parallel that we keep on getting recurrence. I mean, this episode pretty much had 4 of them being mentioned. I mean, obviously you're going to have the Barry and Nora pair up for father-daughter. I mean, that's a given, considering that's the main thing. You have the side one of Caitlin trying to find her own father, finding him, then losing him, and trying to find him again. So that's a second pairing right there. We now get a third pairing in the form of Cicada and his daughter, who turned out to be someone else, which I'll mention in a few moments in my Cicada section. But that's technically a third storyline, a third pairing there. And then you get the fourth pairing of the Weather Wizard and his estranged daughter, Jocelyn, the Weather Witch. So that's a fourth pairing there. So it's like you're getting a whole bunch of father-daughter parallels. And I mean, like, 2 was great. 3 is kind of like pushing it. And then like 4, you're like, oh, come on. Like, this is really pushing it. I mean, like, what about other pairings? It's not just father-daughter. There's mother-son. There's mother-daughter. There's father-son. There's like all these. I don't know. I know that you kind of get them like over the course of the season. But in this episode, I've truly got very tired of the father-daughter parallel. It's just like, it seemed like it was overwhelming for me. And then another peeve of mine for the episode was the fact that Nora keeps on calling Barry Dad when they are dressed up as the Flash and XS. I mean, could you not do that? I mean, that just puts you both at risk, because now every villain you face against knows that the 2 speedsters are related. Oh, here's a thought. Now all I have to do is capture one speedster to make the other one weak in fear of what will happen to their relative. I mean, what is the purpose of a secret identity? Is to keep your loved ones a secret from your enemies. Well, if Nora keeps calling out Dad to Barry when he's dressed as the Flash, neon sign to anyone they face against, oh, one speedster, is the daughter of the Flash. Therefore, capture the daughter, and now you have the Flash at your beck and call because he's going to want to save his daughter. I mean, would it kill you to just use the code name that is meant for him? I mean, I get it in like a split moment. You might forget that visage, like when he's like about to be killed or he's about to be attacked and you got to warn him. And like it's that split reaction of calling out his actual title, who he is to you. But every other time, just call him Flash. Like everybody else who wears the mask that works alongside Barry, to not give away your actual connection to him, right? That was a little peeved by that. It just frustrates me that every time when she is dressed up as XS and she calls Flash a dad, it pisses me off because it's like, okay, another neon sign saying, hey, I'm related to Flash, come after me to get him in your crosshairs, or to get him to your beck and call, because now you can use me as leverage. Just saying. And I'll leave it at that. So next segment, because we were talking about 3 episodes, it was about Caitlyn's quest for Thomas Snow. So in 505, we did find out that Thomas Snow worked at Hudson University. He knew Professor Stein. He was doing research about Keon, the goddess of, supposed to be like a wintry goddess who was supposed to be a different representation of Killer Frost. And then also we found out that her father could be held at a black site of Caitlyn's mom's company, Tannhauser site. And then in 506, we find out that Caitlyn had the ALS markers, and because of this, Thomas treated her with a cryogenic gene therapy, which resulted in a dual personality coming forth after that. So I did mention that briefly earlier on, but this is the reason why Killer Frost exists. And we also find out that Thomas did cure his ALS with the same type of treatment, except he modified it a bit for when he did it on Caitlyn. So there's that. Now, because all this happened, we got some answers about Thomas in 506. There wasn't really much stated about it in 507. I mean, they don't know about his whereabouts. All we know about the Caitlyn sub-storyline is her progress with Killer Frost, and that is that they're working on trying to build the communication between her and Killer Frost so that Caitlyn can call upon her more instead of having that mental block. So there's that. Now moving on to my cicada section. So 505, we had Sherlock narrowing down the potential location of where Cicada was hit by the satellite during the night of the Enlightenment, which led to 506 being discovered that it had to have happened when he was at the carnival, the Pier Carnival, I think it was. They also found out that the Cicada's dagger is part of the core of the Enlightenment. We also found out that the dagger acts up around other metas. It's like a detection thing for Cicada. And we also see Cicada growing weaker because of his wounds, yet also getting stronger. It seems like his strength is increasing, but like his, I guess his durability is weakening. Like, think of it like this, like he's getting stronger, but his breathing's getting weaker. That's the only way I can think about it. And then 507 showed, we get his full name. Cicada is Orland Dwyer, and he's actually Grace's uncle. Grace's parents were killed during a metahuman attack. Her mother is Orland's sister. So there's that. We also get flashbacks in this episode kind of showing the year that Orland had Grace living with him and being her next of kin, and kind of like how their adjustment period went. And the 1 year mark ended on the day of the Enlightenment, and it showed how she was put into a coma, how he was wounded and impaled by the dagger and got his power. We also see that in the present day, Cicada's strength is increasing. He's able to punch a fridge and make a huge dent in it due to his anger. So there's that. I don't know if it's because of the piece of the satellite that's, I believe, still embedded deep inside of Orland's chest that could be giving him his powers. Would that technically consider being a metatech inside of him? I don't know. But also we do see that the doctor that's treating Grace, she might be the one that's kind of like pushing Orlin in the direction of like the metas are to blame. Like she definitely has a deep hatred for them. So there is that. But let's move on to questions very quickly. These are questions that I picked up over the span of the 3 episodes. So there's no question that's particularly associated with any that I can think of. But the first question was, where is Joe? He's definitely been absent, but apparently the actor, Jesse Martin, is on medical leave due to a back injury. So I hope he's doing well. Hope he recovers. I'm missing Joe though, but at least they're not completely like not mentioning him in the show. But it's tough not seeing Joe around. So that's one question answered. But I'm wondering how they're going to keep on writing his absence in the show. They can't just like have like off-scene mentions of him meeting with people. Like, or could they? I don't know. Second storyline. Or not second storyline. Second question. My God. Okay. Since Ralph was the last bus meta that DeVoe absorbed, wouldn't that mean that Ralph's body still has the other powers of the bus metas, even after DeVoe was expelled from his body? I mean, where did all those powers go afterwards? I mean, they couldn't just all be attached, or were they all attached to DeVoe's subconsciousness, and that was something that happened? Because, I mean, Ralph was able to come back from it because he was still in his body, right? But, like, what happened to all the other metas, or at least their powers? Because those powers still traveled with DeVoe when he hopped from body to body. So it's like, what happened to, like, where are those powers now? So there's that. Third storyline, or I keep saying storyline, fudge. Okay, third question. As a speedster, wouldn't Barry be immune, if not to some degree, against electrocution? So there's that. Next question is the fact that, is it possible that the meta tech dagger is corrupting Orlin? Because did you notice that shift in him during that flashback scene when he held it for the first time during that newscast at the very end? So I'm wondering if the dagger is doing more than giving him powers, if it's not corrupting his mindset, because like it seemed like his personality shifted. He seemed a little bit more aggressive. He was a little more like anger fueled and stuff. So there's that. And last question. Why are there no concerns about Nora changing the timeline that could affect her own existence? I mean, couldn't she, I don't want to keep using this, but Barry even said it, couldn't she Marty McFly her own existence out of the picture? I mean, her constant interference is always changing the timeline when the team should be minimizing her influence in the present day. So what if something she does actually accidentally knocks her own existence off track? I mean, like, isn't anybody worried about that? Or is it because she's a speedster, it's totally different? So that's a question there. But moving on to predictions very quickly, based off the promo for 508, it is the 100th episode, and it shows that we are going to see Barry and Nora time traveling to the past to stop Cicada in the future. We're going to see the return of Eobard Thawne in the form of Wells, Zoom, maybe Savitar as well. But this whole concept is reminding me heavily of what the Reverse Flash had tried to do to Barry initially when he tried and traveled from his own future to kill Barry when he was 11, and yet it didn't really go that way. So there's that. But based off the synopsis for the episode, in the 100th episode, Barry and Team Flash come up with a plan to stop Cicada. However, the plan calls for Barry and Nora to travel back in time together to gather some key necessities. However, Barry hesitates, concerned about his daughter seeing certain parts of his life. Meanwhile, Sherlock takes his concerns about Nora to Iris, and Caitlin turns up a key asset in the fight against Cicada. Wondering if that asset was going to be Killer Frost at all. But I guess we'll have to wait and see about that. Tom Cavanaugh is also supposed to be directing this this episode. And that's going to be very interesting to see, not only him directing, but also him being Sherlock and possibly Eobard Thawne in the episode. So that's going to be a huge thing there. I wonder what else or what other tie-ins we're going to get to kind of give throwback to the last 100 episodes, but I can't wait for that. That's going to have its own video of its own. But otherwise, guys, what'd you guys think of these 3 episodes? What'd you guys like about it? What do you think is going to happen next in the 100th episode? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and opinions about all of that. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want Check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I reblog promos, web clips, quotes, GIFs, synopses, news, all the good stuff. So all found in one place. So go check that out. I'm trying to catch up on reblogging. So please keep that in mind. Also, WordPress account, link for that is down below. Everything I post online is connected to my WordPress account. It's more organized, but it's still a work in progress. Keep that in mind. And that is about it, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. I hope you come back next week to see what I have to say about the 100th episode. And then it will be the crossover episode. So until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. I have 10 seconds left on the clock, so I did it. So catch you later, guys. Bye.